name's Artemis, and of course it is still Pride Month, so I'm going to continue this little series of making videos around Pride and who we are and how we identify, because it's a good time to be talking about it, quite frankly. And one of the biggest things that we come into when it comes to this sort of pride in ourselves is coming out, or even just discovering exactly what it is we are all about. It is a very difficult process that I'm sure we all struggle with, or struggled with at some point, and I feel like it's something that is worth talking about because the experiences are so very unique and personal to each person, and yet we all kind of feel like it's supposed to go a certain way. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. This is my journey into finding out about myself and who I am and what I'm all about. It is a bit of a fucking weird one with twisty turns and weird shit, but I mean, would you expect it to be any different? Let's be honest. Okay, so the first point I would like to make in this little story here is that you don't always discover everything about yourself in the order that would make it easier or would actually make sense. For instance, I discovered I was asexual around the time I was maybe 21, 22, but I discovered all of my interests, such as feet and whatnot, when I was 15. So that's a good solid, like, 6 or so years of what the fuck is going on with me. So that's where we're actually going to start, because it was that that's got me, you know, walking along the path to figuring out where I was. So, yeah, it was around the age of 15, 16, probably 15, I think, that for some reason a little switch in my head flicked, and it was just like, hey, I know you've never really thought about feet or tickling ever in your life, but that's what you're all about now, champ. And I don't even know what it was. I just remember at one point I Googled the word tickling and it all just sort of spiraled from there. I found some websites, I found some like stories and forums and stuff that was really useful, really helpful. I found it really weird because honestly, like, as much as, you know, I'm happy and comfortable about it now and I'm open about things and whatnot, like, there was nothing in my life leading up to that point that would have contributed to it. And that was a hard thing for me to sort of to consider, as going through all these fandoms and communities and forums about this sort of thing. I saw a lot of people talking about childhood experiences and things that they remember when they were kids, and I was like, I literally did not ever consider anything about anything back then. Like, I was not a kid that wore slippers. I was always barefoot, and it wasn't because, oh, I like being barefoot. It was because shoes are annoying and I don't like doing laces. So it was a really odd time in my life. Really, really fucking odd. I mean, 15 is a confusing age anyway. And also, I was socially awkward as fuck. So I had no airs and graces about it. I had a group of mates, not friends, they weren't friends, who I tried to confide in. That went hilarious. I think that ended up with me subtly trying to discuss the matter with a couple of people, and a friend next to me just flat out shouting the word tickling so fucking loud that the class, like, above and to the left of us heard. So my shit got spread around school pretty fucking quick. The first issue we had with that was that for some reason someone thought it was directed at them, and I had to very painfully explain to them because apparently it was like a running joke that they were ticklish and shit, and apparently I had to go up to them and explain, this is not about you, this is about me. Like, no offense, but you're fugly. But it was the beginning. It was the first sort of time I felt truly, like, embarrassed and ashamed of that, which unfortunately would be a trend for a couple of years. So you might be wondering, oh, why is Artemis just going to be talking about his fucking interests again? Well, this actually relates a lot to my asexuality, because at this time, I did not know that I was ace. I didn't even know what ace was. I just assumed, as everybody does growing up usually, that I was straight and it was going to just be a thing. And already it was difficult for me to sort of compute in my brain that, okay, I'm now different. I'm not like everybody else. I mean, interestingly enough, like, the tickling thing, that was first, and feet came a bit later, and then slippers came later to the party as well. So even that worked in stages. But even just first of all thinking, like, okay, so it turns out I'm not actually going to be searching like everybody else for big tits, big ass, and just wanting to get laid. It turns out, no, I just want, well, to be tickled. And that's already at that young age where everybody else is finding relationships. That's a bitter pill to swallow. And it was also really difficult to swallow because it wasn't like I had that desire. It wasn't like I was looking at people and thinking, oh, I really want to fuck you, or, oh, I really want you to tickle the shit out of me. It was more just I don't have that. And that's very confusing at that time. And you sort of work in a process of elimination. And so after a little bit of sort of confusion, I was starting to come around to the idea that, okay, well, if I'm not interested in chasing a girlfriend, then maybe I'm just not interested in girls. That was a thought process that swung back and forth for fucking years, over and over again, honestly. But that was in secondary school, and that ended pretty quickly. Like, I discovered that at the end of secondary school. I moved into college, and I could reinvent myself. I didn't. I still became the same petulant little asshole. Spoiler alert, I fucking hated who I was back then, still do. But it's fine, it's in the past, I grew, I'm not that person anymore. But moving into college, I developed my first crush on somebody who I won't mention my name, despite the fact that, well, who the fuck amongst you is going to know them? But I had this crush on this girl, and it didn't go exactly to plan. Now, because once again, I thought that I was sexual. I thought that, you know, this is what I want, this is what I'm going to go for, and then I didn't really have the intention behind it. She was a very sexually focused person. She was the sort of person who, what one person would get out of one person in a relationship, she would get out of several. So she had several very close friends, who sort of fulfilled different parts of a wholesome relationship. And the one that was the boyfriend was purely the one that was going to be having the sex. And you would think that that would work really well for me, but it was more like I was being used. There was a time where I was incredibly emotionally close with this person, closer, I would say, than anyone else in her life, but it didn't mean nothing. And yeah, a lot of it was, I'll be honest, there was a sense of entitlement on my part, like, well, I feel this way, why don't you? I'm doing all of this, so why don't you feel that way? And that was unfair of me to put that on her, but still, it was a very odd time. The first time you just, you know, have a crush is also very fucking strange. But looking back on it and being like, you know, you were trying to put a puzzle together that A, you weren't actually going to want to put together, and B, you barely had any of the pieces for. You know, it was like trying to build a brick wall and having nothing but cement and just being like, well, this isn't gonna fucking work, is it? It was around that rejection that I started getting a lot of self-esteem issues because I was fat, and obviously I had all these interests that people were aware of, and it felt like they were a detractor, like it was a problem that I was going to have to face. Almost like, you know, oh, you know, Aaron's really nice, he's really lovely, maybe we could, you know, I would love to have someone like him, but he's got all that weird stuff going on, so fuck that. That's how it sort of played in my mind, that if anybody ever did become interested in me, this would act as a deterrent, if anything, because it's weird, it's not normal, it's not what everybody else is about. But on the other side of that, I was feeling the exact same way. See, whilst I was having this crush with this girl, I was actually kind of terrified about how it could go. I was having a lot of soul searching about, you know, well, if she's sexually based, would I ever want to fuck her? And it was actually something that gave me a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear. Like, just the thought of being in that situation was really terrifying for me for quite a long time. And I couldn't reconcile those feelings back then. It was like, you know, I'd sort of seen that the path to the answer was there, but I didn't know where it led. I couldn't see where it was going. Couldn't even see how to walk down it. It was hard as shit. But fast forward, and I'm still on the internet, I'm still involved in various communities, which, again, another very difficult thing. It's the reason why I talk about, you know, the feet and the tickling as much as I do now, is because I feel comfortable about it. But back then I did not, because it is largely a sexual community, and that is A-okay, but it's very difficult to like something non-sexually that the vast majority of people like sexually. There's already a lot of assumptions that come into it, and you like feet, like, oh, you must like the smell, you must like shoes. No, I hate both of those things, actually. Thank you. No, goodbye. So then being the one to say, like, no, it doesn't actually turn me on. No, I don't like the idea of, like, dicks involved with feet. No. Why is that automatically assumed? Then I'm the pariah, I'm the outcast in that one, because I'm the niche, I'm the odd one out. Now what that tends to bring is that you have a level of conformity to it, and you feel a little bit damaged and broken. You tend to feel like, well, this is how everybody else feels about it, and I like most of the same things, so why don't I feel that way? What's different about me? There was one specific phrase that I will never forget on this forum, and it was along the lines of, if all you're interested in is tickling and not a healthy sexual relationship, then you need to get professional help because there is something seriously wrong with you. And of course, being that age and being that new to the internet and to all of this, I took that as gospel, and that rooted itself in me for a long time. Like, but I only care about that. That's the only sort of physicality that I really feel I'm chasing, and I don't want sex. Hell the fuck no. The hell is wrong with me? Am I clinically broken or some shit? That's something that a lot of us have to deal with. But yeah, fast forward and I left college, I got a job, I found other interests in life, other people, and it kind of went sort of all right. There was somebody at a place I worked. I have a little stories that I give to people. I call them my 4 failures of love. And whew, they are interesting, but I'm only going to give you a couple. So this person at work, she developed interest in me, actually, which was a completely foreign concept. And, you know, she was lovely. We got on really well. She was sexual, but not overtly, not massively. I was comfortable enough to talk to her about the foot thing. She was comfortable enough to sort of, you know, be happy with that. She wasn't grossed out. That was a big deal for me. And we got quite close for quite some time. She had a couple of things wrong with her, a couple of conditions and allergies more than anything. She had some very severe allergies, and I was very protective because it was really a matter of you eat or drink the wrong thing, you could die. And so I was very protective, and I mean, we only really were this close for a couple of months or so, and there came this sort of strange point where there was this night she got drunk, and actually there was a couple of nights. There was one night after a work function, she got drunk and kissed me, and that was just, that really fucked my head up. But there was another one where this is, oh God, I can't believe I was this oblivious. So there was this night where we were just at her place, and we were playing, I think, Left 4 Dead or something, and it evolved into some sort of tickle fight. And basically what happened is she was about the same size as me, so I didn't have no physical superiority in this one. She managed to pin me to the bed, hips to hips, and she leaned in. And what did I do? I just laughed and rolled over. And it took me 3 fucking months to realize she made a move on me. And that was the beginnings of me starting to think, okay, I've seen what asexuality is online. Maybe that is what I'm about. I was like 3 months later telling the story to a workmate. He was like, well, no wonder she's pissed off. She made a move and you fucking backed out. I'm like, she what? She fucking what? She did a what now? I still to this day find it hilarious that I was that fucking oblivious to anything like that, because it was after that moment that things started to go downhill, and for a good reason, because it was also after that moment that she said, oh, by the way, my boyfriend's coming down. And I was like, fucking what? Boyfriend? That was something you should have mentioned, but I digress. That was the first clue, though. That was the first inkling that this whole asexuality thing might be a thing, but it didn't immediately go to that. After that, I actually was convinced that I was gay, like 100% convinced I was gay. And I was even potentially seeking that out. It got to a point where I was thinking, like, I could probably take a dick. And unfortunately, when you get to a certain level of, I want a relationship, I want a partner, and I'm feeling lonely, you start to feel that you need to compromise some of your values. You start to feel like, well, if I want this, then maybe I'm going to have to give up that. It was a point I made with somebody that, you know, oh, I would give up all of my interest in feet and tickling just to be with you. And I didn't realize just how much of a toxic mindset that is, to have to repress parts of yourself just to conform to somebody else's desires. Don't do that, especially when it comes to anything that is that close to the core of your being, okay? Never let yourself do that. That's bad. So it was around that sort of time that I thought I was, you know, big homoed, a big gay, and it was to a point where I was saying, like, oh, maybe I need to actually explore this a bit further. It was also around this time that another workmate, she was trying to set people up on a blind dates, and she decided that I was a project. And she was great, she was hilarious. She was really nice, I could trust her, and we worked quite closely. She had a boyfriend who was a bit of a douche, but whatever. And she had a friend who was single and was lonely and was looking, and I was kind of apprehensive to the idea, but there was this time at work where I was just like, oh, I'm not really sure about it. It's like, it's fine. Like, she's really lovely. She'd love to meet you. She'd love to go on a date with you. It's like, yeah, but I mean, I like certain things that, you know, she doesn't really. I was a bit conscious. I was like, but there's things you don't know that I like, and that she's probably not going to like because people find it weird. And she was like, hey, it's fine. Just tell me what it is, and it'll be fine. I said, oh, okay. I thought, like, okay, fuck it. All right, I like feet. And she was like, oh, she's got adorable little feet. She was desperate to set me up. It was hilarious. But I thought, fuck it, let's give it a go. You know, nothing ventured, nothing gained. So I went on this little blind date, and she was lovely. She was a nice person. We chatted quite well. She was a little bit forward. She was a bit, you know, she definitely had a goal in mind. And I do 100% believe that this was one of those typical sort of go on a first date with someone, see if I can get them back to my place, and if the sex is good, then we'll maybe try dating. I think that was basically the aim of the night. So we were out in town having drinks, and I was not drinking. Like I had like one or two, but I don't drink at the best of times, and especially when someone's set me up like this. And then came the revelation. Basically, it came this point where apparently we'd been getting on well enough that she took me to the side of the club, and we kissed. And oh god, oh. Like, you know those moments where you just want to fucking... You look around a room like, what can I kill myself with? Why is the world not swallowing me up? Why have I not disappeared from fucking reality? It was one of those moments. I'm a bad kisser, evidently. So we kissed. It was bad. It was awful. It was just the most cringiest shit in the world. I get very uncomfortable remembering it. But two things happened. She became very sad because she realized there was nothing between us, and she was very much, it's not you, it's me, it's okay, I'm so sorry, you're a lovely person, but I was sat there with this weird sense of euphoria because I felt nothing. And it was like there was a little switch in my head clicked that just went, you know that whole gay thing, straight thing? No, you're ace, mate, you're ace. That's it, 100%. And I sat there just like, oh my god, I got the answer. I'm fucking ace. Yes. Nothing. Yes. Oh my god. Yes, this is the best fucking feeling. And she's almost in tears, feeling like she's broken my heart. And I had to explain to my fucking workmate, like, can you please let her know that I am A-okay? And she's actually really helped me in my life. She was lovely. It was just a mismatch, you know, it happens. But that was the weirdness that led me to discovering the asexuality. That was how it happens. That's not exactly fairy tale, that's not storybook, that's sure as shit not common or normal, but I think it's important for everybody to remember that it's never going to go the way you expect it to. And that's kind of the reason why I thought I would talk about this. It's because everybody has a little image in their head of how coming out is going to be and how, more importantly, discovering yourself is going to go. You don't, magically wake up one morning and go, I like dick. I mean, sometimes some people do, but sometimes it's quite a journey and you question yourself a lot and you have to experiment and really figure things out. It's why I don't get upset or pissed off with people who change their mind. And I used to hate it when people would use asexuality as just a placeholder. And, part of it still irks me a little bit. Like, no, this isn't just what you can call yourself when you're not getting laid. But I understand that also it's useful to jump around certain labels when you're younger and figuring shit out and see what fits. I've seen people go from ace to pan, and that's quite a fucking change from, I don't want to fuck anybody to, well, actually. So I don't get mad about it because I went from, straight to bi to gay to ace. And mixed up in between that, I had all of this, foot and tickle shit going on. So it's a fucking wild, weird, cringy journey. And I hope that anybody out there finds some comfort from the fact that as confident as I am talking about it now, and as open as I am, and as happy as I am with it, I never really used to be that way. And anybody you see that is happy and confident and talking about it out loud, it's because they've gone through a lot to get to that stage. Okay, it's not easy really for anybody. And I mean, the journey's not even really over. I still sit here and wonder, what if things change again? I had a big sort of thing with the feet and tickling stuff because I managed to find somebody really close to me who was also asexual and also likes tickling. What the fuck? Did not know that could happen. It was the town next door. Holy shit. Fucking amazing. And we met up and we dated. We had a few little, like tickle sessions and shit. And that was another big moment in my life because, coming up with the assumption that having a fetish for feet and tickles and shit means that you have to be turned on by it, to finally be in that situation and be like, oh, thank God, I'm not turned on by it. I'm not broken. Neither is she. Oh my God, thank the Lord. Having that answer, that definite, you're fine, was, and still is, a huge comfort to me because, honestly, it's been a constant source of paranoia. But, I mean, even then I was questioning, well, maybe I want to be with her. What the fuck even is romance? Because I don't fucking know. I'm still figuring some of that shit out. I think I definitely know I want romance. And there are definitely people that I look at and think, I think I'm going to develop feelings for you because you're lovely and we're matching up really well. But that's still a journey I've got to take. It's still a discovery I've got to make. And that rhymed and that rolled off the tongue nicely. There are still a lot of elements to this, and that's another thing that you should all remember, is just because you've got some of the answers doesn't mean you've got them all. It's a constant evolving thing. I've said many a times to many people, this time next year, I could be a slut. I could be just desperate for cock. Who knows? Things could change, and that's fine. If that's the way it goes, that is the way it goes. I am not afraid of change. I'm not afraid of changing my mind. I just know that right now I am fucking repulsed as shit. So no sexual lewdness for me, please. Thank you. But there you have it. There is my story. I don't think I've really delved into it as much as that before. And I thought maybe it was time to do that. I've talked about a lot of these things quite often, but I never really put all the pieces together in a straight line. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully you found it interesting, and who knows, maybe you relate to it. Why don't you leave a comment? How did you discover your orientation, be it, you know, straight, gay, whatever it is? How did you figure it out? Was it just as trippy and weird, or were you one of the lucky ones that just fucking knew it forever? Thank you very much for watching. I'm very proud that I managed to keep saying words like feet and tickling without cringing, because that in itself is a big fucking deal. Thank you for supporting. You're all so fucking lovely. And yeah, I will see you again next week to continue this little series of Pride videos. I've got a feeling this one will be the longest. Holy shit.